I'm just a lonely Christian man living here in LA. Oh Lord, I'd really like some friends. Is that too much to pray? So I went to the local church to make a friend today. But when I saw that preacher running to me, I said, "Take me, Lord, right away." Anybody out there who feels like me? Clone Christians, are they all so perfect? They don't have to believe. What kind of preaching, Lord, keeps on telling me to put my faith in myself? If I believe for a life without bills or taxes, will I go to hell? That preacher said, if I want prosperity, I have to give till it hurts. Ouch! Okay, come on, everybody, send a tax refund to that church. Assembly line, Lord, they all look so free. I want to be another cloned Christian, Lord. They don't have to believe. Lord, I'm learning to want it now, but after all, it can all be bought. Like that house on the hill, a purple Mercedes, and of course a matching yacht. Does it take to believe I could swing away on a star? If I believe I could sing with Elvis live, can I keep his guitar?
Disgusted, alone in a world so cold. No friends around, problems got me down. I didn't know which way to go. Then on a bended knee, in an altar of prayer, Jesus, he met me there. And when I couldn't find Jesus, Jesus found me. The burden was so heavy, brought me to my knees. But when I called on his name, he heard my plea. And when I couldn't find Jesus, Jesus found me. Yeah, Jesus found me. Jesus found me. Yes, he did.
So returning to the teaching about the healing of the leper. The text I'm taking you to is Matthew chapter 8. It's one of the first healings that we see Christ involved with someone seeking after him. The mystery of being a Christian is that God chose you. You did not choose him. We make Christianity sort of a cookie-cutter kind of understanding in today's world, that you should look like this, you should do that, and then you have the reputation of, as the world would say, being holier than thou. But Christianity will always be about a relationship. It's never going to be about how perfect you are. That's why I do not strive for perfection. On what I teach, how I teach it, I leave the mistakes in, as well as the things I don't make mistakes about. I usually catch the mistake. But I want you to begin to think today about this leper who comes to Jesus and says, simply, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Now, when was God willing to make each of you clean? I want you to think about that. When was God willing to make you clean? Did it happen when you just heard His voice? Or you felt the emptiness that drew you to Him? Or you felt the fullness that drew you to Him? When did God purpose to make you clean? And the harder question, if we want to actually apply ourselves to some deep thinking, is when did God purpose the healing for this leper? We make God look very cheap when we try to make Him act and think like a man. For God to be God, God has to know everything. God knows when I get up in the morning. God knows when I head down in the morning. That's why David would say in the Psalm, Lord, where can I flee from you? If I reach the heights of heaven, you are there. If I go down into the depths of hell, you're there. For God to be God, He knows everything. So when did God purpose this healing for this leper? It's going to be answered truly by Paul in the book of Ephesians, when he would describe to the Ephesian church, and the church is not a building, the church is not a place. And you go down the street and you see those steeples and the crosses and whatever it is that they think that they are, and you say, there's a church. That's your first mistake about the word. The church, as I explained previously, is not a building. It's not even a place. It's a people. And to get back to my question, when did God choose? And when did God will to do? If He's God, it was going to have to be, as Paul would conclude, before the foundations of this world. To understand eternity is a very hard understanding for any of us because we are finite creations. The human condition is finite. It has a beginning and it has an end. But it's this big. Eternity is outside of time. However, God, being God, works inside of time for us who are His. That's why Romans 8:28, that God enters into every circumstance and situation and works His good. Another message, another teaching for another time, because you have to take apart the literal. It's not that all things work to the good of them that love God. There's nothing good about leprosy. But God, at this point, through Jesus the Christ, enters into this man's problem. And He works His will to accomplish His will through him that would ultimately render a sacrifice that He was going to have to go and make before the priest that would further exemplify who He is. The mystery of Christ is this, that God took on the tent of human flesh and He dwelt amongst us. That's how simple it is. God just simply came out, if you will, in the literal sense, from behind a curtain, and He revealed Himself in the nature and the flesh of Jesus Christ. To believe the claims of Christ, you have to then ascribe to Him a form of deity that has to be above all deities. And I say that not having the time to explain it in this teaching, but I say it to understand that the God of glory, the eternal God, takes on the tent of human flesh, dwells amongst us, and Jesus reveals to us the Father. Jesus reveals to us the Father, and not only His love, but the power that would come to us when He died, when He would then be resurrected from the dead, and give to us His Holy Spirit. The mystery is that God makes us His depository for His Spirit. And because of His Spirit in us, that's what gives us life. Life doesn't come when you stop doing something. Life only comes from Christ. And if you take his claims, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and you have to begin to say to yourself, all right, he's the only way, he's the only truth, he's the only life. What about everything else? Either everything else is true, or Jesus is the liar, or everything Jesus said is true, and everything else that we think of becomes the lie. But the answer is, before time began, God chose you. Before time began, God worked out a solution to every problem you have. The problem with most of us is that we have a struggle and we think that God answers our struggles. But the truth is that God answers us because of the promises that he's made to us when he loves us, he watches over us, and he gives us salvation. And within salvation comes all of the things we may need in this life. But salvation is not about this life here. Salvation is about the life to come. You can work all your life, but you're not taking $1 with you when the lid shuts or when the fires of the crematorium disposes of your body. And I'm slowing down purposely because I want you to sort of follow the stage of thinking.
Together by his unseen name, but to the young and old who cry out his name, he knows each of them personally by their prayers.
met me there. And when I couldn't find Jesus, Jesus found me. The burden was so heavy, brought me to my knees. But when I called on His name, He heard my plea. And when I couldn't find Jesus, Jesus found me. Yeah, Jesus found me. And I know Jesus found me. Yes, He did.